If you ever hear a cry for help at night while camping, ignore it. I love to camp, but after my most recent trip, I don't think it will ever be the same. I set up my tent on nice flat ground and collected some wood for a fire. The night came with all its nightly sounds, and I relaxed at the hooting owls and chirping crickets. Even better was the fact that no one else was around. Help! It was subtle. I almost missed it. The voice came from deep within the woods, and for a moment I didn't believe what I was hearing. It sounded female, but oddly enough, I just couldn't tell. Please help, it continued. I shined my flashlight between the bushes and walked around. To be completely honest, even as a grown man, I was paralyzed with fear. So I did the responsible thing and called the local police. That's when things went from odd to very, very weird. The police told me to ignore it. I explained to them that someone could be injured and probably needed medical attention, but they assured me otherwise. When I kept pushing and asked why, they told me, "Sir, if you ever hear that voice again, ignore it. Do not respond and do not approach." Well, I did hear it again, but I didn't ignore it. It was almost midnight when I heard the voice a second time. I awoke to someone whispering, "Help," and it sounded like she was just outside my tent. I went out to check, and no one was there, but the voice continued from a distance. "Help, please." Again, I grabbed my flashlight and looked around the area I was camping. I was too afraid to follow the voice into the woods, especially since the authorities themselves avoided it. But I struggled morally, trying to decide whether I should go and help this person or listen to the police, who were concerned for my safety. But then I heard another different voice. This other voice, which also seemed to be coming from the woods, was an octave lower. Unlike the first one, which cried for help, this one was loud and demanding. "Quiet," the other voice demanded. "No one's going to help you." Once I heard that, I was sure someone was in trouble. I called the police again. When I informed them about a second voice coming from the woods, they seemed even more concerned. They told me that I should pack my things and leave the campsite immediately. They said that hearing the second, more manly voice meant that it was getting desperate. They also said that the two voices were coming from the same person. That part was bizarre and confused me, to say the least. It was at this point I dismissed the police in that area as crazy, but not before telling them off. I got angry. I told them that if they didn't get down here to come and check it out, then I would do it myself. I said repeatedly that a woman could be in serious trouble and that it was their duty to help her, but still they refused to come. All they kept repeating to me over the phone was, "Do not enter the woods, sir." They seemed more afraid than I was. Once I hung up the phone, I heard the voices again. A gentle, "Please, somebody help me," and then a growling, "Quiet, no one's coming?" It was a little past midnight at that point. I couldn't live with myself knowing that I had the chance to save someone's life, but instead cowered. So I grabbed some things and ventured into the woods. When I entered the woods, the voices ceased, just like that. No cries, no whispers, and no commands. Even the owls and crickets went away, nothing but dancing leaves and creaking tree branches. I stopped walking and looked around, a full 360 degrees. "Hello? Anyone here?" I called out. Nothing. "I'm here to help," I continued. "Where are you? Are you okay?" Still nothing. I thought of calling the police again, then chuckled to myself. I found it strange but somewhat comforting that I didn't find anyone out there. Nonetheless, I was still creeped out, so I packed my things and finally left the campsite. I didn't know why the police, of all people, were so afraid. Worst case, someone was in actual danger, and we've all failed them. Best case, morons who think saying "help me" in the middle of nowhere is a great idea for a prank. To be honest, when I heard the voice the very first time, I did think it was a joke. When I heard it the second time, along with that other voice, I became a bit more concerned. And same with the third time I heard it in the woods. But when I heard it again a fourth time, a week after I left the campsite, coming from inside my own house, I became very, very concerned. Story 2, I sell mystery boxes on the deep web. I started doing it on a whim. My brother has an unhealthy obsession with online vloggers. I can barely go a day without him linking me to a video of someone taking part in some sort of challenge or performing some social experiment. So when the whole deep web mystery box trend started, I was one of the first to know. My brother must have sent me dozens of videos of annoying preteens, opening up boxes filled with junk that they tried to pass off as creepy and sinister. When my brother asked me for my opinion, I told him that it combined all the boredom of an unboxing video with all the stupidity of the Tide Pod challenge. I added that most of them were probably making the boxes themselves. Even I could do it. And that's when the wheels started turning. A quick search confirmed that this was a growing trend, with hundreds of people claiming to have opened up boxes containing everything from drugs to murder weapons to mysterious flash drives. Some bloggers even claimed that they had spent thousands of dollars on a single mystery box. Those were obviously fake, but what about the rest? Were there really people out there who would spend at least $100 for the chance to go viral? I bet that they would, and unfortunately, I was right. Putting the boxes together was easier than expected. I had some cardboard boxes stuffed in my closet that turned out to be the perfect size for the job. Some rusty screwdrivers proved perfect as my murder weapons. My desk drawer offered up a surprising number of old flash drives that I made mystery box ready by filling them with as many creepy videos as I could download. Finally, some expired sinus tablets provided me with some mysterious deep web drugs once I had peeled the labels off. Getting the website set up on the deep web was a little harder, but you can find an online tutorial for anything these days. By the time I was ready to go to bed, I was the proud owner of the Emporium of Mysteries. For $50 worth of Bitcoin, anyone could be the proud owner of a mystery box. Sure, the site looked like it had come straight out of the early 90s, but it was good enough. I was in business. The next morning, I went looking for customers. Fortunately, my brother's messages had made me very familiar with the online vlogging community. I messaged a few of the smaller channels with some burner accounts I made and left a few comments on their latest videos. You should do a deep web unboxing video. You know what would be really cool? Unboxing something from the deep web. I'd bet you'd get millions of views. I heard about this new place on the deep web called the Emporium of Mysteries. They sell mystery boxes there. You should check them out. Then all I had to do was sit back and wait. By the end of the day, I had 6 purchases. Not much all put together, but enough to help put food on the table. By the end of the afternoon, I had the boxes ready to ship. I wasn't looking to scam these people after all. They got to make their stupid videos and I got to eat. Everybody was happy. I sold a few more over the next few weeks, but eventually interest died down. Life went on. My brother sent me more stupid videos, and I gradually forgot about my time as a deep web merchant until last Friday. When I got home from work, there was a package waiting for me outside my apartment door. When I picked it up and examined it, I realized that it was one of my mystery boxes. It looked like I had an unhappy customer, but it wasn't like they were getting their money back. I took it inside and opened it up. It was empty, save for a flash drive that I didn't recognize. I was curious what was on it, but I wasn't about to let some disgruntled hacker infect my computer. So I dug out an old laptop that I hardly used anymore and plugged it in. It was full of pictures. Pictures of my hometown, of my apartment, of me. Whoever sent me this had been following me, had been inside my home. Staring at those pictures, I started to realize just how out of my depth I was. You see, not everything you find on the deep web is fake. There are some people out there who do sell real mystery boxes, and they are tired of scammers like me taking away from their profits. Thankfully, they are very generous people and want to give me a second chance. So I am pleased to announce that the Emporium of Mysteries is under new management. Now, for the same low price, you will receive a genuine mystery box. It will include a special tool from my new partner's personal collection, along with a video instructing you in its use, co-starring myself. The body part or organ extracted during the video will also be included as a special memento. Supplies are limited, so search us out on the deep web as soon as possible. We look forward to your business. Story 3, don't sleep in your car at night. I've always loved long car rides. Even as a child, I was thrilled at the notion of relaxing in my seat while the outside world whizzed by me. This enjoyment didn't decrease through my adolescence. In fact, it only grew. By the time I had received my driver's license, I was embarking on small road trips every few months. They were simple explorations, a nearby campground or a friend's house, but it gave me a feel for it. I had always simply slept in my car on the trips, since I didn't find it necessary to spend my money on some crummy, overpriced motel. Besides, at that time, I barely could afford rent. I had become decently skilled at it, spotting places to sleep, creating makeshift tables and beds, properly insulating my car in the winter months, all became second nature to me. I had never felt unsettled, sleeping in my hand-me-down 2003 Chevrolet Impala, while the night sky turned to dawn. Instead, I found it serene, waking up to whatever picturesque landscape surrounded me. But my opinions have greatly changed from then. I doubt I'll be sleeping in a car anytime soon without the protection of a firearm. It all started when I decided to pay my parents a long-awaited visit. We were very close in my childhood, but we had grown apart when I moved 3 states away for college. I called them, and I arranged to see them the following weekend. I received time off my work and began planning my route. I would be traveling from my apartment in Washington to their lovely 3-story house in California. I planned to sleep in my car around the halfway mark and then arrive at their home that afternoon. I packed my things and set off on the road early the next morning. I spent most of that car ride jamming out to my rock collection and investing myself in audiobooks and podcasts. As the sun faded behind the surrounding mountains, I began to search for a secluded area for me to park. After several minutes of looking, I found it. An old abandoned rest stop surrounded by tall trees and the thick, mossy Oregon foliage. I pulled into the parking lot and stopped my car. I put my back seats down and created a makeshift bed out of my sleeping bag, a few blankets, and several pillows. I quickly fell off into slumber. I awoke at dawn and returned my back seat to its normal state. I got an early start as planned. Besides a little traffic, the rest of that car ride went off without a hitch. That afternoon, this continued for God knows how long because I somehow fell back into sleep through the horrific sounds. I awoke several hours later in a sweaty mess of fright. Light rain poured down outside my window. I wasted no time getting back on the road, for I had no intention of sticking around that dreadful place. I got my bearings together and felt relaxed after I had driven hours away. That was until I pulled in a gas station. I stepped onto the pavement and breathed in the fresh air. It was very comforting to have other normal people around me. I was close to accepting the fact that I had likely imagined the events of the previous night. I peered down at my outside car door and froze. There, carved into the metal surface, were several thick, deep gashes. I promptly hurried out of the store and into my car and rode back to my apartment without stopping. This has been haunting me ever since I arrived back home. Paranoia has taken over me. All my blinds are closed and I have at least one weapon on me at all times. I've researched possible scientific explanations, but this has yielded little result. I'm scared to leave my apartment complex, although I desperately need human interaction. I want to inform the police, but I already know my story would not be believed. Whatever lurks in the back roads of Oregon is still a mystery. I don't know what came to me that night. Neither do I know why it did. All I know for sure is that you should never sleep in your car at night. Story 4. The Whispering Graveyard. In the forgotten outskirts of a small town, hidden behind thick forests and shrouded in an eerie mist, lay Blackwood Cemetery, a place no one dared to visit after dark. Legend spoke of unholy whispers that slithered through the air, calling out to the living. Those foolish enough to enter at night never returned, or if they did, they were never the same again. Ethan, Mark, and Daniel, 3 reckless friends with a love for the supernatural, decided to test the legend. It was a cold October night, the full moon casting pale silver light over the tombstones. Armed with flashlights and a camera, they slipped past the rusted iron gates, unaware that they had just crossed a threshold between the living and the dead. The first sign. The moment they stepped inside, the air turned icy, their breath visible in the sudden chill. The graveyard was unnaturally silent. No crickets, no rustling leaves, nothing but the faint whisper of the wind. Or was it the wind? Mark stopped suddenly. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. A soft murmur drifted through the air, like voices just out of reach. Ethan chuckled nervously. "Just the wind, man. Don't freak out already." They pushed deeper into the cemetery, their flashlights flickering as if struggling against the darkness. The camera's battery drained at an unnatural speed, despite being fully charged an hour ago. And then, they found the mausoleum. The cursed door, a towering stone structure, stood at the heart of the cemetery, covered in vines and moss. Its door was slightly ajar, revealing an abyss of darkness inside. The rusted nameplate read, "Do not disturb the silence of the dead." Daniel, the bravest of the group, smirked. "Looks like an invitation to me." Before anyone could stop him, he pushed the heavy door open. The air inside smelled of rot and something far worse, something ancient and wrong. The whispers grew louder, curling around them like invisible fingers. Inside, the walls were covered in strange symbols, etched deep into the stone. In the center stood a black coffin, its lid covered in claw marks, as if someone inside had tried to escape. Then came the laughter. A dry, raspy chuckle echoed from inside the coffin, sending chills down their spines. The lid creaked open, just an inch. Mark bolted. "Nope, I'm out!" He turned and sprinted toward the exit. Daniel, emboldened by adrenaline, stepped closer. Ethan hesitated but followed. "Dude, this is stupid. Let's go." But Daniel was already reaching out, his hand hovering over the coffin lid. And then the thing inside moved. A skeletal hand shot out, its fingers curling around Daniel's wrist. His scream pierced the air as an impossibly long arm pulled itself free. Rotting flesh hung from its bones, and empty black sockets stared up at him. Running from the dead, Ethan grabbed Daniel and yanked him back, but the creature held on, its grip ice cold and unbreakable. Daniel's skin began to blacken where the fingers touched him, decay spreading like wildfire. Mark, already at the cemetery gate, screamed, "Get out of there!" Ethan saw only one way out. With all his strength, he grabbed the heavy coffin lid and slammed it shut on the creature's arm. A deafening screech rang through the mausoleum as the hand snapped off, writhing on the floor like a severed spider's leg. Daniel collapsed, his arm burning with a deep black rot. Ethan and Mark dragged him out of the mausoleum, sprinting toward the gate. The whispers behind them turned into screams, furious and inhuman. The cemetery came alive, tombstones shifting, shadows chasing them. Just as they reached the iron gates, a force slammed into Ethan's back, sending him tumbling to the ground. He felt fingers in his hair, cold breath on his neck. A voice, deep and guttural, whispered, "You should never have come." Then silence. Ethan scrambled to his feet, heart pounding. The cemetery was still again, as if nothing had happened. But Daniel was barely conscious, his arm still withering. The whispers had taken something from him. The aftermath days passed, but Daniel didn't recover. The infection spread, turning his veins black. Doctors had no explanation. Then one night, he disappeared. Ethan found his bedroom window open, muddy footprints leading outside. They followed into the woods straight back to Blackwood Cemetery, and there, freshly dug into the ground, was a new tombstone. It read, "Daniel Morgan, died October 31st. The dirt beneath was still loose, as if someone had been buried there just hours ago. But there was no sign of a body. Only the whispers remained. Do you dare enter the darkness again? If you love terrifying stories, don't forget to subscribe to Dark Whispers. More nightmares await.